The morning that cracked something inside me began quietly. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the one with the uneven leg, reading the newspaper through the smudge on my glasses. The December light outside had that thin, washed-out look, stretching long across the linoleum. The house smelled of toast and lemon cleaner. I had made a fresh pot of coffee, though I knew I'd be the only one drinking it. Mark came down in that grey hoodie he wears even indoors. My son, 50 this year, with eyes that look like his father's when he was still kind. He didn't look at me, just reached for the counter where the mug Saturday. That's my cup, I said softly. He turned, that crooked half-smile not reaching his eyes. You don't need that much coffee, Mom. You shake after 2 sips. He poured half of it into his own mug, then topped mine with cold water from the sink. The sound of it, tap rushing, coffee thinning, landed sharper than I expected. A small thing, but it had a final sound to it, like the last nail in a small, invisible coffin. I didn't answer. I just watched the thin steam die. The smell changed too, bitter, turning flat. He took the hot mug without another glance and went to the living room, where the television was already too loud. The chair across from me stayed empty, and in that moment, something subtle but enormous snapped, silently, cleanly. Like a string cut. I should tell you who I am. My name is Marianne Graves. I'm 68, retired from 39 years clerking at the county courthouse. Not the glamorous kind of work, mostly records, forms, and proof of what people swore under oath. You get used to things being on paper, neat and dated. Paper doesn't lie the way people do. My husband, Tom, died 8 years ago in late spring. He left the house to me outright, the one built in 78 when everything felt possible. Green shutters, sagging porch, mortgage-free. 2 children, Mark and Allison. Both grown, both busy, both aware I have a pension and savings but somehow unaware that I'm still human. When Tom passed, Mark moved in for a while, he said. Said he'd help around the house, fix the gutters. That while has stretched into almost 5 years. His help became his bedroom upstairs, his things scattered everywhere, his voice telling me what I should do with my money. He doesn't hit. He doesn't curse me outright. But it's in the tone, the kind that folds you smaller every time. The Mom, you don't understand finances today. The Mom, you're being dramatic. Always said soft, polite, like concern wearing a mask. Allison visits rarely. She sends polite texts, all emojis and apologies. Next month, Mom, promise. Her husband thinks I'm sentimental. Maybe that's worse than rude. So yes, I've been silent for years. It's easier. You stay silent because confrontation makes you tired. You keep hoping they'll remember your softness once meant safety, not weakness. But that morning, with cold coffee and that sound of water drowning what little warmth I had left, the silence cracked. I sat at the table long after he left. The newsprint dried against my fingertips, smudging black. The house was full of small noises, furnace wheezing, refrigerator clicking, the dull thud of his footsteps overhead. I remembered when I used to hum while doing dishes. Now I didn't even whistle. I felt something tiny crawling back up from where I'd buried it, an old habit, sharper than grief. Not anger. Calculation. The courthouse had taught me that anger scares people, but paperwork ruins them. When I clerked, I filed deeds. Mortgages. Probate. I remembered the weight of certain folders, those big brown ones that meant ownership, boundaries, signatures that couldn't be undone by tone or guilt. There was power in ink. I had that once. I went upstairs. Slowly. My knees don't like stairs anymore, but I climbed them anyway, past framed family photos that now felt like old evidence more than memories. In one, Mark as a boy, laughing in the sprinkler. In another, Tom's arm around me. At the lake. The glass over them was dusty. You could draw through it. My bedroom still smelled faintly like lavender powder and last night's rain sneaking through the window frame. I knelt by the cedar chest at the foot of my bed. It creaked the same way it had for decades. Inside, between folded quilts, was the metal box Tom and I always called the important one. Fireproof, heavy, cold even through the blanket. The key was still taped under the drawer where I'd left it when my hands were steadier. I sat on the carpet with that box between my knees. The sound of the lock opening felt like breath after holding it for years. Papers inside were crisp, some yellowed at the edges. House deed, insurance, joint accounts long closed. Everything signed and notarized. I ran my finger over Tom's signature, strong, looping, still confident. I whispered, "You did good, Tom. You made sure I was safe. I just forgot how to use it." Memory is strange. One small act of disrespect, cold water in coffee, and suddenly scenes come back clear as film reels. I remembered the first time Mark asked for money, 2 years ago. Said he'd start a small business flipping cars. Promised to pay back in 6 months. I believed him. He never paid back a cent. Then came the credit card used just for gas, the online purchases on my account because his was frozen, the casual way he'd open my mail. Each time I swallowed my pride like a bad pill. He once said, "You'll never survive without me, Mom." Said it when I hesitated to let him handle my banking apps. I pretended it rolled off me, but it didn't. It sank deep. I smiled that day, the way mothers smile when they're scared to show anger. I shouldn't have. Now those words replayed in my head, dripping slow and poison sweet. "You'll never survive without me." I almost laughed. The woman who balanced courthouse ledgers for decades, dependent. The one who could track a deed from 1964 by memory alone. If only he knew how much survived because I kept my mouth closed. That afternoon, I began testing my strength again. Quietly. I pulled my old laptop from under the bed, wiped the dust off the case. The screen lit blue, hesitant, like waking after a coma. Password still worked, my birthday in reverse. I opened my bank account. Balance, healthy enough. Pension deposit steady. No joint access. Relief washed over me like warm air after frost. I had been careful even in fatigue. Somewhere deep inside, some part of me had stayed alert through the fog, but that wasn't enough. I needed information. I needed proof. I opened the recent transactions, scrolling. Small deductions I didn't recognize, subscription services, delivery apps, late-night charges. All from the same card linked to my account. My heart sank, then steadied. I took screenshots, saved each as PDF. Old reflex. Documentation before confrontation. Then I checked property tax statements. Paid under my name. Title still only me. Another small triumph. By evening, the sky outside had turned violet, and the house emptied of words again. Mark had gone out, some bar, I guess. I stood at the kitchen counter, holding the cold mug he'd left behind. The smell was stale beer, not coffee. I rinsed it under running water, slow, deliberate. There was satisfaction in simple acts when you did them by choice. Then I sat again at the table, same place, same light. But the feeling was different. The silence now belonged to me. I made a list. Not a dramatic one, no revenge, no fantasy. Just facts. Contact Ms. Jasper, retired attorney, neighbor 3 streets down. We worked together once. She owes me a favor. Review the deed, confirm no liens or co-ownership. Check will copies, update if necessary. Secure important jewelry and documents in bank box. Plan exit timeline if things turn ugly. Each item a small step away from being someone's dependent. After writing it, I felt an unfamiliar thing, calm with edges. Like standing in shallow water just before it drops off. Around 9, headlights swung across the living room curtains. Mark's truck, pulling in too fast. Doors slammed. Voices. I recognized the other, his friend, probably the same one who laughs too loud. They came in smelling of smoke and winter air, laughter slurred and heavy. "You're still up?" Mark asked, coat half open. His tone startled me. It wasn't cruel, just careless. "I was reading," I said. He looked at the papers spread across the table. The deed was still out, half covered by a folder. His eyes narrowed. "What's all that? You planning something?" "Old files," I said lightly. "Just cleaning drawers. Don't stress yourself. You worry too much about that old stuff." He walked past, opening the fridge. "I told you, Mom, I'll handle bills when the next property taxes come due. You don't need to get lost in this paperwork." He said it like he was reassuring a child. I just watched him, the way you watch a stranger passing in front of a window you once cleaned every day. "I remember how," I said slowly. "It's my house. My taxes. I still know numbers." He shrugged, took a beer, left the bottle cap on the counter. "Suit yourself. Just don't call me when the online portal confuses you again. Something in his words, it wasn't even sharp, just dull arrogance, made the room tilt slightly. I smiled. I won't. He didn't notice the tone. He never does. When he disappeared upstairs, I folded the papers neatly and slid them back into the folder. Then I locked them away again, not in the chest this time, but in my handbag. It felt right to keep them close, like armor. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay listening to the wind tapping the loose gutter he never fixed. My mind kept arranging thoughts like puzzle pieces. The deed, the account, Ms. Jasper's phone number still in the old address book. I imagined the smell of her home office, dust, tea, old wood polish. She'd understand what I needed with almost no explanation. She always did. I got up around 2 a.m., made tea instead of coffee. Steam rose in faint curls. My reflection in the window looked older than I remembered, but sharper too. The kind of face that stops asking. I whispered to the dark, "You'll never survive without me, huh?" The words sounded almost amused. Like testing the echo of an old fear and finding it harmless. Then I wrote one more note on my list. Tomorrow, call Jasper. Ask about power of attorney reversal and eviction rights. It wasn't anger. It was administration. Morning came grey and slow. Frost on the porch railing, air like broken glass. I dressed neatly, slacks, cardigan, small gold pin Tom once gave me for our anniversary. It steadied my posture. Mark was still asleep upstairs. His snores filtered through the vent like dull waves. I brewed coffee again, stronger this time. The smell felt like territory reclaimed. When I stepped outside, the street was empty except for the mail truck 2 houses down. My breath fogged in front of me as I walked the short distance to the phone booth near the pharmacy. I could have used my cell, but I wanted privacy. Somehow the old metal receiver felt more trustworthy. I dialed the number from memory, Ms. Jasper's old line. It rang twice before a familiar voice, roughened by years, answered. "Marianne Graves," I said. "I hope I didn't wake you." A pause, then a warm chuckle. "Not at all. Haven't heard that voice in years. How are you, dear?" "I've been better." The words came steady. "I need your professional eyes on some property documents. And, maybe a bit more." Her tone shifted immediately, serious. "Ready. Bring them by this afternoon." "I'd rather not be seen coming to your place," I said. "Things at home are complicated." She didn't press. "All right. The courthouse cafe at 2, then. Same table we used to sit by." I exhaled slowly. 2 o'clock. As I hung up, I looked across the street at my reflection in the pharmacy window. Grey hair, lined face, cardigan buttoned unevenly, but eyes clear as lake water in winter, the same eyes that used to read every line of an affidavit without missing a detail. Back home, Mark was awake, scrolling through his phone at the kitchen counter. He gave me a lazy glance. "Where'd you go so early?" "Just a walk," I said. I poured myself coffee, the good kind. "You sleep well?" He yawned. "Like a baby." "You should rest more too, Mom." "I'll manage." Something in my voice must have sounded different, because he looked up longer than usual, brow creased. "You okay?" "I'm fine." I smiled, small, polite. "Just a few errands today." He nodded, distracted already, and turned back to his screen. I watched him a moment longer, memorizing his posture, the casual ownership he carried in this house. I let that image sink in because soon it wouldn't be his house at all. At 1:45, I left, locking the door behind me. The keys jingled faintly, chilling and satisfying. The sky was that dull winter white again, but inside me something warm started to move. Not happiness exactly. More like readiness. The courthouse cafe hadn't changed much. Light coffee smell, old wood tables, a hum of printers from across the hall. I chose the corner table near the window. Ms. Jasper arrived 5 minutes later, wrapped in a red wool coat, eyes still sharp. "Marianne," she said, sitting down. "You look composed." That's always more dangerous than nervous. I take that as a compliment. You should. What's this about? I opened my bag, slid the folder across. The papers looked innocent enough: deed, bank PDFs, handwritten notes. But the weight of them shifted everything. She skimmed through quickly, nodding. You still keep perfect records. Impressive. I had to, working there all those years. She looked over the rim of her glasses. And your son? He's living in the house? Yes. Without paying. Without respect. I kept my tone even, like reading a weather report. He's treating the property as his own. I plan to correct that. I see. Her lips pressed into a thin line. We can start with a notice to vacate. Quiet, legal, controlled. But Marianne, she hesitated, searching my face. Are you sure you're ready for the fallout? I stopped being afraid last night. Her eyes softened, then sharpened again. Then you're already halfway there. We talked for half an hour about logistics, timelines, delivery methods, state requirements. I took notes, meticulous. She promised to draft the papers by tomorrow morning. When I left the cafe, snow had begun to fall, tiny flakes, hesitant. The air smelled clean, alive. I walked home slowly, letting each step settle a piece of the old fear back into the dust. Back inside, I hung my coat, made tea, fed the cat that still insists on sleeping near the laundry room. The house was quiet again. Only the clock ticked steady. I opened my notebook and wrote across today's page in small neat letters. Jasper, notice to vacate. Tomorrow. Then below it, smaller, step 1 done. I stared at those words for a long while, then underlined the last 3. Evening came heavy. Mark returned around 7, chattering on his phone. He dropped his jacket on the couch, left mud tracks on the rug. I didn't say anything. Silence was strategy now, not surrender. He asked about dinner. I said I'd already eaten. Truth was, I hadn't. I just wanted the kitchen quiet. He shrugged, made himself instant noodles, slurping as he scrolled through Instagram reels. Each sound a noisy monument of thoughtlessness. He looked up once. You sure you're fine, Mom? You look different. I am different, I said. He laughed. In a good way, I hope. In a real way. He didn't know what that meant. That pleased me. Later, when the house dimmed, I slipped the signed copy of the document request into my purse. I couldn't risk keeping it here once Jasper emailed it for digital signature tomorrow. I planned to print it at the library first thing. Sometimes, small steps feel enormous when you've been still too long. I stood by the living room window a long while, watching snow gather on the porch rail. Streetlights turned it golden. I thought of Tom, how he used to shovel before dawn, whistling. I wondered what he'd say now. Maybe nothing. Maybe just a nod, proud and quiet. There's a kind of calm that only comes when you've already survived everything you were afraid of. Somewhere upstairs, Mark laughed at something on his phone. The sound didn't sting anymore, it just echoed like someone else's noise in someone else's home. I touched the handbag on the table, feeling the slight bulge of papers inside. Cold paper, sharp corners. Proof, boundaries, awakening. I zipped it closed, then the phone vibrated. A new email. I opened it cautiously. Subject line, draft notice to vacate, review from E. Jasper, attorney at law, Ret. I clicked it open. The first line read, per our discussion, this notice serves as formal grounds. I didn't need to read further. The mere sight of that professionalism, fonts and clauses, felt like the first sunrise after a long, endless dusk outside. The wind rose, rattling the shutters. Inside, I smiled, a small, clean smile no one saw. Then came a sound that froze me, a knock on the door. 3 firm, deliberate taps. Not hurried, not friendly. Mark shouted from upstairs, Mom, you expecting someone? I closed the laptop quickly, slid the bag under the chair, and walked toward the door. The knock came again, measured, polite, official. Through the glass, I saw a shape, dark coat, leather briefcase, snow on the shoulders. A stranger, waiting. I took a slow breath, my hand on the knob, pulse steady. The house smelled faintly of coffee again, but this time it was warm. I turned the lock. The knock came again, steady, almost rhythmic. 3 taps, pause, 2 more. Not impatient. Not nervous. A professional's knock. When I opened the door, cold air slipped over my slippers and brushed up my legs like water. The man standing there tipped his hat slightly, a young face but cautious eyes. Mrs. Graves, he asked. Yes. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I'm from Evans and Jasper Associates. He lifted a leather case that gleamed even in the afternoon gloom. Ms. Jasper asked me to deliver some preliminary documents for your review. He said her name smoothly, no hesitation. Legitimate. Behind me, I felt the warmth of the house waver. Mark was halfway down the stairs now, barefoot, curious. What's going on, Mom? Who's that? I didn't turn. A messenger. The young man smiled politely. This is a standard draft form, no signatures yet. Private matter, of course. I stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind me. The wood clicked, a small line drawn. Mark's muffled voice came through the panel. Mom? I ignored it. The messenger handed me a sealed envelope. My fingers recognized the weight of real paper, thick, expensive stock. There was comfort in tangible things. Thank you, I said. He nodded, the brim of his hat catching a few snowflakes. Ms. Jasper said to remind you that she'll call tomorrow, 10 a.m., to confirm details. Then he turned and walked down the front steps, deliberate, steady footprints fading into white. When I re-entered, heat wrapped around me again, heavy, stale with yesterday's cooking. Mark was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. His eyes moved from my hand to my face. What was that about? I placed the envelope on the counter, careful not to let the seal face him. Business. Business? He frowned. What kind of business? You don't even household, I said simply. Just some updates I need to make. He laughed, short and dismissive. Mom, come on. You always overcomplicate this stuff. You should have told me someone was coming. He could have been a scammer. He wasn't. Well, how do you know? I turned toward him, finally meeting his eyes. Because I worked with the woman he represents for 15 years. Longer than you've been handling bills you never paid. That stunned him into silence. His mouth opened, then closed again. I walked past him to the table and poured myself fresh coffee. The mug was mine this time, no cold water, no sharing. He stood there another moment, confused, before muttering something about weird old habits and heading upstairs. His steps sounded heavier now, not confident, defensive. I waited until I heard his door close before slicing the envelope open with the butter knife. Inside lay 3 documents, neatly stapled, the headers crisp, notice to vacate, draft. Property ownership verification checklist. Confidential client-lawyer agreement. He ran a thumb over the print. My own name in bold had never looked so strong. I didn't sign anything yet. This wasn't about speed. This was about process, control. Years of watching people ruin themselves by rushing taught me that real power waits until signatures mean something. I slid the documents back into the envelope and tucked them under the fruit bowl. Hiding in plain sight, then I exhaled slowly and let myself really sit, for the first time in weeks. The next morning, daylight crept pale across the curtains. I dressed neatly again, hair pinned up, cardigan buttoned straight this time. I brewed 1 cup of coffee, just for me. The smell felt like beginning. At 9:58, the phone rang. Marianne, it's Evelyn Jasper, said the voice I trusted. Still firm, still dry as ever. My associate mentioned the delivery went smoothly. Yes. Thank you. Good. We'll move forward once you confirm your intent in writing. I'll prepare a notarized copy. All you'll need to do is sign. But before that, are you absolutely decided, Marianne? Her question hung there, gentle but heavy. I am, I said. He's treating my home as a hotel. I've allowed it long enough. Then we'll proceed. Expect a document courier Thursday morning. I could hear her approving smile through the receiver. You sound different, you know. Certain. I am. We ended the call quietly. I replaced the phone, feeling my pulse steady like a metronome returning to rhythm. Mark spent most of that day downstairs, restless. He pretended to scroll his phone but kept watching me. His voice grew testing, prodding. You on the phone with anyone important this morning? Mail seemed heavier today, huh? You sure everything's okay? I answered each question with the same steady tone, everything's fine. By lunchtime, he was pacing. You're hiding something, Mom. No, I said, without looking up from my notebook. I'm restoring something. What's that supposed to mean? My boundaries. He frowned like a child encountering a difficult math problem. You're being dramatic. Maybe, I said. But drama built your roof, son. Try not to insult it. He stood there, blinking. Then he stormed upstairs. I let the door close, calm spreading through me like slow fire. That evening, I began organizing drawers, one by one. Utility bills, neatly stacked. Receipts sorted. I found old letters from Tom, notes he'd scribbled when he was fixing the back fence years ago. His handwriting always leaned forward, like it didn't want to wait. The smell of paper and dust filled the air, quiet, grounded. Every drawer I closed felt like sealing a chapter. I discovered something else, too. 2 old checkbooks with unused deposit slips. My name alone printed on them. That would come in handy when I opened a new account somewhere Mark couldn't touch. At dusk, the wind outside howled through the eaves. I pulled a shawl around my shoulders and looked out the window. Streetlight glow soft on the snowbanks. It looked peaceful, but I knew peace rarely came without paperwork first. Thursday came cold and bright. The courier arrived at exactly 10. Mark was gone out applying for some gig work he talked about but never finished. Good timing. The woman at the door smiled briskly. Delivery for Mrs. Graves, signature required. Her gloves squeaked slightly against the clipboard when I signed. The air smelled faintly of wintergreen gum. She handed me a thick document folder, wished me good day, and left footprints fading into the white again. Inside, the finalized notice to vacate, already dated, blanks ready for signature. I read every line twice. Legal, clean, unshakable. It would give Mark 30 days to vacate my home. Just 30 peaceful days. I could almost breathe freer just knowing it existed. But when I looked toward the staircase, quiet, empty, I felt something taut under the calm. This wasn't simply pushing a tenant out. This was dismantling years of dependency, excuses, and guilt. And guilt has claws. Late afternoon brought snow again. The house glowed soft, golden. I placed the notice back into its envelope and set it beside the sugar jar. Then, instinctively, I called my daughter. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, her voice fluttery and distant. Mom. Oh, wow, it's been forever. How are you? I'm doing fine, Allison. How's the family? Busy as always. You know how it is. Mark's helping with the house, right? I looked at the single scuff he'd left on the baseboard last week and said, he helps himself plenty. A small pause. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing you need to worry about yet. My voice stayed soft, measured. But you might hear from your brother soon. He'll tell you his own version of a story. I just wanted you to know mine first. She hesitated, unease creeping into her tone. Mom, you're scaring me a little. Good, I said simply, and ended the call before she could smooth it over with polite words. The silence afterward was rich, not loneliness, just space gaining its rightful breath. That night, I dreamed of papers fluttering through sunlight, pages scattering like birds released. When I woke, my pillow was damp. From tears I didn't remember crying. Relief feels a lot like grief when it first arrives. Mark returned before noon, his boots leaving small puddles on the mat. You been out? I asked casually. Yeah. Job interview, he said too quickly. Listen, I could use the car tomorrow. It's being serviced, I lied. Try Monday. He frowned. You never used to stop me using it. You never used to forget to refill the gas. He blinked, surprised by my firmness. Okay, geez. He rummaged through the fridge. Is there anything left for lunch? Leftover soup. Bottom shelf, I said, folding laundry deliberately at the table. The air between us thickened with unfamiliar authority. He slammed the fridge door a little louder than needed. You're acting weird lately. And you're noticing, I said. Good sign. He scowled, muttering something under his breath. I didn't ask what. There was satisfaction in letting him realize the balance was shifting, even if he couldn't yet name it to tea sunset, the house filled with television noise again. I sat upstairs, reviewing the documents one last time. Lamplight pooled gold on the pages. My pen rested beside the line marked signature of owner. My hand trembled slightly, not from fear, just the weight of permission. Signing this meant the beginning of the end of a long invisibility. I signed, ink spread clean, decisive. Not grand. Just done. Then I dated it in neat numerals and folded the papers back into the envelope. That moment, Mark shouted from below, Mom, we got mail here with your name but my address on it. Weird. My stomach tightened. Bring it here, please. He climbed up, holding a white envelope. No return address. My name typed neatly. I slit it open. Inside was one page, typed words centered cleanly. Notice received. Process initiated. No signature, just a small embossed seal at the bottom. EJ was confirmation. Proof that my step had been formally taken. Mark squinted. What's that? Something from the court. Something about property, I said, folding it slowly. Nothing for you. He laughed nervously. You sure you know what you're doing, Mom? You hate dealing with that legal mess. Yes, I said, staring at the page. But I remember enough. His smile faltered. Hours later, after he went to bed, I sat at my dressing table. Lamplight softened the lines on my face, still there, but different now, earned rather than endured. I touched the envelope once more, then tucked it back into the cedar chest. The metal box was still cool when I closed it. A satisfying click echoed through the quiet, then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. House inspection scheduled. Confirm availability. EJ inspection? That hadn't come up yet. My stomach fluttered, a mix of surprise and intrigue. Evelyn moved fast. Maybe she'd found something in the property records that required verification. I typed back. Confirmed. I'll be home. Morning arrived sharper. The air smelled faintly metallic, like impending snow. I cleaned the living room thoroughly, old habit before visitors. Polished the frames, wiped the counter, replaced the dyeing plant near the window. At exactly 3 p.m., a silver sedan pulled into the driveway. A woman in a long grey coat stepped out, tablet in her hand. Short hair, direct eyes. Mrs. Graves? She asked, shaking my hand. I'm here for the preliminary property inspection. Standard procedure since the notice is filed. Of course, I said. Come in. Mark wasn't home, thank God. She surveyed politely. Walls, foundation corners, fire alarms, outlets. Professional, efficient. Midway through, she paused by the staircase. Do you have anyone else residing in the home permanently? Yes, I answered evenly. My adult son. But not permanently for much longer. She nodded, typing. Understood. You'll receive the verification report via email within 2 business days. When she left, her perfume lingered faintly. Citrus, paper, something clean. It mixed with the smell of lemon polish. And new purpose. By evening, clouds bruised the sky, snow hinted again. Mark came home later than usual, smelling like beer and oil. He tossed his jacket carelessly and caught sight of my neat piles of organized documents on the table. What's all this? You doing taxes already? Preparation, I said. For what? For what's next? He laughed, shaking his head. You're hopeless, Mom. Every time you dig into that courthouse stuff, you drive yourself nuts. I smiled gently. Not this time. He snorted, scooping up his keys, muttering. Then he froze. His eyes landed on the open envelope momentarily visible at the table edge, the logo of EJ Associates clear in blue ink. What's EJ? I met his gaze without flinching. A friend handling a few things for me. That's all you need to know. He stared, suspicion darkening his eyes. You're seriously doing something behind my back? Behind your back? I repeated, voice steady. No, Mark. For the first time, I'm doing something in front of my own face. He didn't know how to answer that. I could see it, the confusion, the flicker of fear disguised as irritation. He turned sharply, stomping upstairs, door slamming. The sound didn't shake me this time. It only marked progress. Night deepened. I sat again by the window, light snow falling under orange street lamps. My reflection overlaid on the glass looked still but fierce. Then, headlights. Mark's truck backed out of the driveway far too fast, tires crunching ice. The sound faded down the block until silence returned. A minute later, my phone vibrated. A voicemail notification. He must have called before leaving. I played it. His voice came rushed, angry, slurred around alcohol. If you're trying to pull something stupid, Mom, I swear you'll regret it. You don't know what you're doing. Silence followed, then a hang-up click. I listened twice. Calm washed over me, the way fire steadies once it's burning right. Then I opened a new page in my notebook, wrote. Voicemail, December Thursday 8:47 p.m. Threatening tone. Saved copy documentation before confrontation. Always. I made myself chamomile tea, the smell coating the air with calm. Then I checked emails one last time. New message from Jasper's office. Verification passed. Legal delivery scheduled Monday morning at 9 a.m. Recipient, current occupant, Mr. Mark Graves. Must be present. I closed the laptop slowly. My heartbeat was steady, deliberate. Through the window, the first heavy snow began to fall, flakes thick as feathers. The yard disappeared under white. I whispered into the still air, barely louder than the tea's steam. Monday morning, then. Down the hall, the furnace hummed low. The envelope gleamed faintly under lamplight, and in that quiet, one thought pulsed, steady and electric. He said I'd never survive without him. Let's see how he survives without me. Outside, the storm deepened. The house that used to feel like a cage finally sounded like preparation. A sudden thud broke the calm, something against the porch. Another. Then the unmistakable scrape of shoes on snow. Someone was out there. My hand gripped the edge of the table. Through the window, a shadow moved, large, staggering. Then the knock, louder than before. 3 hard bangs this time, cutting through the wind. The sound of that knock didn't echo. It burrowed straight under my ribs. Heavy, deliberate. Someone knew exactly where to hit. Outside, wind hissed through bare branches, scraping against the window panes. I could smell the air, sharp with snow and exhaust. My house had always been quiet at night, too quiet, but this kind of silence was different. Expectant. I walked to the door slowly, every board beneath my feet creaking in protest. My slippers made the faintest whisper across the floor. Through the frosted glass, the porch light drew a figure into shape. Broad shoulders, coat dark with wet, head bowed slightly. A man. Not the courier. I knew that posture. Too familiar in its hunch of guilt and defiance mixed. I opened the door a few inches. Cold air knifed into the hallway, and with it the smell of rain-soaked denim and beer. Mom, he said. Mark. For a second, snow swirled between us like static. His cheeks were red, his breath visible. It's freezing, he said. You gonna let me in or what? I stepped aside without answering. He brushed past, boots thudding on the mat. He didn't even shake the snow off. The trail followed him halfway into the living room. Once inside, he turned, trying for casual. Truck slid a bit. Roads are hell out there. You shouldn't drive drunk, I said quietly. You could kill someone. His eyes flickered with the old defiance. It was 1 beer. Maybe 2. The smell argued otherwise. He looked around, the half-packed folders, stacks of documents, the phone blinking with Jasper's unread message. You been busy, huh? Organizing, I said. He frowned, rubbing his palms together. Organizing what? This place already looks like a filing cabinet. Maybe I just like things in order before they change. That made him pause. Change? I walked to the fireplace. I hadn't lit it in years, but the ashes still smelled faintly of old cedar. I wanted something between us, even if it was only distance. He followed, uneasy. All right, I'll bite. What's going on, Mom? I turned, slow and calm. Mark, I'm giving you a month to find somewhere else to live. It took him a second to process. Then he laughed, the sound brittle as ice snapping. You're kicking me out? No. The law is. He blinked. What the hell does that mean? I filed a notice to vacate. I said it the way clerks read surname spellings, detached, precise. 30 days from delivery. Then you're no longer permitted to stay here. He stared, disbelief stiff on his face. You're serious? I am. His voice rose a little, but still thick with disbelief. You can't do that to your own son. I can, I said softly. And I just did. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Snow melted down his coat, dripping on the floor. Water spots spread where he walked. You've lost your damn mind. Who talked you into this? Was it Allison? She's always been jealous that I help you. No one talked me into anything. I started listening to myself. He stopped moving. His face twisted through confusion into anger, the kind that flares up when someone's authority slips. After everything I've done for you, for me? I interrupted. Still calm. You've eaten here, slept here, Used my electricity, my car, my time. That's for me. He glared. You needed company. Don't act like I'm some leech. Then prove it. Leave on your own, peacefully. 30 days is generous. You can't just, there are rules. His voice cracked. I know tenants' rights. I raised one eyebrow. And I know property law better than you know how to pay rent. He went quiet. The clock ticked loud behind us. Wind whistled under the doorframe. Somewhere, water dripped from his boots onto the rug, steady, like the slow count of seconds. I'm still your son, he muttered. I know, I said. That's why I gave you time. He didn't speak again. He picked up his coat, shook the snow off roughly, then pointed toward the hallway. Fine. You want formal? Let's do formal. But you'll regret this. I nodded once. Probably. But I'll survive. That broke something in him. His jaw clenched, his eyes glimmered red, not tears, just rage dulling into disbelief. He slammed the door behind him so hard the drafts lifted dust from the shelves. For a moment, I stood still, feeling my own heartbeat level out again. Calm felt physical, slow waves rolling back after the storm. I locked the door, turned off the porch light, and made tea to steady my hands. The house smelled faintly of wet wool and defiance. On the kitchen table, the envelope with Jasper's papers lay open. Beside it, Mark's boot print darkened the linoleum. I wiped it clean, square by square, then I sat down, watching the steam rise from my cup. I didn't cry. I just breathed. He would go scream to Allison, to anyone who'd listen. That part was inevitable. But the silence that followed would belong to me again. The next morning, wind had cleared the snow into crisp folds along the lawn. Sunlight glared so bright it hurt my eyes. I stepped outside only long enough to fetch the paper. My breath left small clouds that trailed behind me like thoughts. The front porch showed evidence of last night's storm, uneven tracks, a single set leading to the mailbox. Someone had delivered a new envelope, this one smaller, tan, stamped certified. My stomach rose in a small twist. Legal weight again. Inside, I slit it open carefully. A single sheet, typed, confirmation of delivery notice. Copy of my own signature, time-stamped. It meant the process had started officially. There was no turning back now. I stared at it longer than I needed to. Paperwork feels colder when it involves family. Around noon, my daughter called. Mom? What happened with Mark? Her voice trembled slightly. He called me last night, said you've gone off the deep end. Something about eviction? I see, I said, stirring sugar into my tea. The spoon clinked steady. Is it true? Yes. She exhaled sharply. Are you serious? He's your son. I was serious when I bought this house, too. Same paperwork. That's not the same. He just needs time. He's had years, I said, setting the spoon down gently. And he used every one of them to forget who pays the utilities. Silence stretched on the line. I could almost hear her swallowing guilt. Look, she said finally, her tone sliding into appeasement. Just, don't make things messy, okay? You're both adults. Talk it out. I tried for 5 years, I said. This is me talking. She sighed. You know how stubborn you sound right now? I do, I said. I sound like someone who stopped being scared. Before she could reply, a sharp ping came from my laptop, another email. I glanced at the subject, court acknowledgement notice, case opened. Goodbye, Allison, I said, and hung up before she could soften her voice again. I opened the email. The digital seal glowed blue. My case had a number now, #3042-115, property possession verification. That string of characters carried more comfort than any apology could. I leaned back, letting the light from the screen fade across the room. The cat rubbed against my leg, purring softly. Even she seemed calmer outside. A plow moved slowly down the street, scraping ice. The grinding sound reminded me of something, stability taking shape, order pushing through resistance. For years, I had lived by avoiding friction. Now I was learning the music of it. Late afternoon brought its own test. Mark returned earlier than I expected. Snow still clung to his hood, his jaw looked tight, unshaven. He didn't slam the door this time. That almost worried me more. He walked into the kitchen, holding a folded piece of paper. I talked to a lawyer friend. Oh. He says you can't evict family without cause. You don't have a reason. I do, I said. Non-payment, misconduct, refusal to contribute to maintenance, unauthorized use of vehicle, and a general pattern of disrespect. He blinked. That's not enough to hold up. It's written in plain state code. Section 47, Clause 8b. I used to file them. He froze, paper crumpling in his fist. You really are turning on me. I kept my voice even. No, Mark. I'm turning toward myself. He stared hard at me, breathing shallow. You'll be sorry. Probably again. But not as sorry as I've been living like this. I could fight this, he shouted. I'll get a lawyer. Good, I said. Then we can speak through documents instead of doorways. His fist hit the countertop flat, not a slam, more of a hopeless impact than aggression. Coffee mug rattled. He looked at it, then at me, realizing he'd shown too much. Without another word, he strode upstairs. The silence afterward hummed through every pipe in the house. That night, as snow thickened outside, I drafted my own statement of record, just in case. Chronological Behavior Record. M. Graves, 2023 to 2025. I listed dates, incidents, small evidence, misuse of electricity, erratic mood, financial withdrawals. It felt mechanical but necessary. Every clerk knows the story is only real once it has a timestamp. Halfway through, I paused. The pen's tip had smudged ink on my thumb. Funny, I hadn't noticed how steady my writing hand still was. Decades of paperwork never left the muscles. When I finished, I placed the sheet on top of the file pile. The scent of ink filled the room like faint metal and dusk. For the next 2 days, Mark didn't speak much. The house vibrated with avoidance, separate rooms, separate silences. I cooked simple meals, labeled leftovers. Sometimes I caught him watching me, expression unreadable. Then Sunday night, I saw movement outside. Headlights parked across the street, engine idling. A silhouette behind the wheel. I watched from the curtain's edge, heart ticking faster. After a moment, my phone lit up. Unknown number again. I didn't answer. The voicemail appeared seconds later. You think paperwork can protect you? Let's see how you feel when people know what kind of mother you really are. He hadn't blocked his number this time. I saved the voicemail, emailed the transcript to Jasper with the subject, potential harassment evidence. M. Graves' response came fast, received. Keep record. Police contact optional, will advise after Monday delivery. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. He wasn't just angry now. He was scared, and scared people do rash things. I checked every lock before sleeping. Even the basement. Monday dawned icy, the streets glassed over in white. I sat with my coffee, watching light crawl through thin clouds. 9 o'clock approached like a slow verdict. A T exactly the hour, tires crunched outside. A sedan again, same firm's car. The courier from before stepped out, briefcase in gloved hand. He waved politely at the window. I opened the door before he could knock this time. Mrs. Graves, he said with a small smile. Delivery confirmation documents. This time for occupant signature. Thank you. Come in, I said. He hesitated. Actually, protocol requires both parties to be present. Is your son inside? I nodded. He'll come down. I closed the door, called up the stairs. Mark. Someone here for you. No answer. I called again, firmer. Mark. Silence. The courier shifted, uncomfortable. If he's not available, I can leave the copy. And Mark refused. That stands as acceptance. That'll do fine, I said. He handed me a digital pad to sign. My finger traced the confirmation line smoothly. When he left, the scarf around his neck smelled faintly of cedar and wool. I caught myself breathing deeper, grounding in the detailed. As I turned back, I heard a sound behind me, footsteps overhead. Slow, deliberate. He'd been listening the whole time. 2 hours later, a loud thud shook the ceiling, drawers opening, closing, maybe luggage. I didn't move. You learn from years at the courthouse that silence is the only leverage chaos can't interpret. 20 minutes after that, his boots marched down the stairs, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His eyes were red, sleep loss or booze. I couldn't tell. He tossed the bag near the door. I'm heading out for a while. Take your time, I said. He hesitated, gripping the doorknob. You really think you'll be happy alone, Mom? I was, before I forgot how. He almost smiled, the old boyish curve flickering, then dying. I hope you know what you're doing. I do. He opened the door, cold air rushing in again. Then he muttered, you always did like your damn papers more than people. I smiled faintly. They don't lie. Door closed. Silence returned so much deeper it felt sacred. Afternoon sun slanted across the floorboards, catching on dust motes that looked like tiny points of freedom. I walked through each room slowly, touching surfaces, the mantel, the edge of the sofa, my desk all mine again, but halfway up the stairs, I noticed something odd. The cedar chest lid slightly ajar. My pulse jumped. I hurried to it, kneeling inside. The documents were there, but one folder was missing, the bank records I'd printed that first night. Cold spread through me sharper than fear. He'd been in here. Recently. That folder held account numbers, proof, everything. I sat back on my heels, breathing shallow. On the floor near the chest lay a single torn corner of paper, smeared with boot grit. I picked it up. From the margin print I could make out one word, statement. He'd taken proof with him. I closed the chest slowly, feeling each hinge protest. The smell of cedar hit my throat, dry and bitter. Somewhere beyond these walls, Mark was carrying pieces of my own evidence, and I had no idea what he planned to do with them. The afternoon light cut through the blinds like narrow blades. It hit the cedar chest, glinting on the metal lock, mocking me. One folder gone. The most important one. I sat at the edge of the bed, thinking. My hands didn't shake, though some part of me wished they would. Fear at least feels human. Calm feels dangerous. Mark had taken the bank records. Maybe to threaten, maybe to leverage. I'd dealt with men like that before, co-workers who shouted louder when they were cornered. Always the same eyes, wild with the terror of losing power. I opened my laptop. Jasper's number blinked from yesterday's emails. I called. Marianne, she said, voice clipped. You sound winded. The bank documents. He took them. She paused. Then I heard quiet typing. We can issue a freeze on any joint identifiers, just in case. Give me the last 4 digits of the pension account. I told her. My throat felt dry as paper. You did the right thing calling immediately, she said. I'll contact the bank directly. Keep copies of everything else safe. This doesn't change your case, it just accelerates it. After I hung up, I made myself move. The old instinct of procedure kicked in, step by step, order out of chaos. First, I opened a new folder, security backup. I scanned the remaining documents, saved to an encrypted drive. Then I placed the drive in my purse, along with keys, phone, checkbook. Travel light, move smart.by dusk, the porch light came on automatically. The snow from earlier had hardened, glimmering like glass. I watched it through the window, sipping lukewarm tea, remembering another lifetime, the younger me walking home from the courthouse in winter, feeling invisible in her grey coat. That woman was still here, only quieter, sharper. A T9, tires crunched outside. A truck door slammed. Then footsteps, quick, reckless. I didn't bother turning off the lights this time. I wanted him to see me awake. The door rattled, then opened fast. He stepped inside without knocking. Where are my papers? He demanded. Your papers? I said. Those were mine. Don't start that. He dropped the mud-spattered folder onto the counter, pages flaring open. I made copies. In case you're planning more surprises. I looked at them, creased, wet in places. My careful order ruined by sloppy hands. Copies won't help you. The accounts are already protected. His mouth fell open. You called the bank. I worked there in spirit for 40 years, I said. Of course I called. He swore under his breath. Jesus, Mom, why are you doing this? You're sabotaging your own family. I'm defending it from you. He looked smaller suddenly, shoulders curling inward. You'd really throw me out in the snow? No, I said softly. You threw yourself out the moment you decided my kindness was weakness. He stepped closer, eyes dark. For a heartbeat I could smell the bitterness on his breath, the same scent his father carried the night he first left me alone with bills spread across the table. That memory gave me focus. I reached into my pocket and held up my phone, I've recorded this conversation for documentation, I said. If you continue to raise your voice, I'll call the police. Something inside him broke. Not violently, just folded in on itself. He backed away, shaking his head, tears forming that he didn't want. You're unbelievable. I am, I agreed. That's what surviving looks like. He turned, jerking the door open. Cold poured in again, scattering loose pages across the floor. One fluttered near my feet. As he stomped down the porch steps, I called out quietly, "You have 1 week left. Use it well." The truck engine roared, then faded down the street. I closed the door, gathered the scattered papers. One stuck to my slipper, the ink from Tom's old signature smudged where the melting snow had touched it. "Sorry, love," I whispered. "Nearly done." I dried each page, sorted them back into order. My life, refiled for the next days, nothing happened. That was the strangest part, peace. A stillness humming where noise used to live. I cooked small meals, read old mysteries, opened curtains again. Then Thursday morning, the doorbell rang. 2 men stood outside, uniforms, polite faces. "Mrs. Graves," one asked. "We're here to confirm voluntary vacancy of property." "He's gone." My voice cracked just a little. "He left early this morning," the younger one said, glancing at the clipboard. "Said he understood the conditions. We just need your signature confirming possession." Possession. Such a simple word for getting your life back. I signed, the pen scratching steady across the page. The officer nodded. "You're all set, Stay warm." When they left, the sound of their boots faded into the same driveway where my son used to draw chalk roads as a boy. Snow covered everything evenly now, no tracks, no divisions. That evening I built a small fire for the first time in years. The scent of burning cedar filled the house, mixing with the faint sweetness of tea. I sat with a blanket, watching flames lick across the logs beside me, a single mug mine. Across the room, a framed photo of Tom. His smile seemed easier to meet now. I thought about what would come next. Maybe selling the house, maybe not. Maybe traveling. Maybe just sleeping with no one slamming doors. Freedom, I realized, doesn't announce itself. It settles quietly, like warmth returning to frozen wood. I checked my phone. One new message from Mark. "I'm at Allison's. I'll pay you back someday." "I'm sorry." I stared at it a long time, then typed back, "Take care of yourself." That's repayment enough. Sent. Deleted the thread. Closed the phone. Snow fell again outside, gentle this time. Through the window, the porch light glowed golden against the dark, a small steady beacon. I whispered, to no one in particular, "I survived just fine." Then I smiled, the kind that starts behind the ribs and moves outward, slow and sure. The kettle clicked off. The fire hissed. And the house, mine, breathed quietly with me. If Marianne's quiet strength moved you, take a moment to like, comment, and share this story. Your support helps bring more voices like hers to life. Subscribe to hear the next story, every one written from the heart. That afternoon, I began testing my strength again. Quietly. I pulled my old laptop from under the bed, wiped the dust off the case. The screen lit blue, hesitant, like waking after a coma. Password still worked, my birthday in reverse. I opened my bank account. Balance, healthy enough. Pension deposit steady. No joint access. Relief washed over me like warm air after frost. I had been careful even in fatigue. Somewhere deep inside, some part of me had stayed alert through the fog, but that wasn't enough. I needed information. I needed proof. I opened the recent transactions, scrolling. Small deductions I didn't recognize, subscription services, delivery apps, late-night charges. All from the same card linked to my account. My heart sank, then steadied. I took screenshots, saved each as PDF. Old reflex. Documentation before confrontation. Then I checked property tax statements. Paid under my name. Title still only me. Another small triumph. By evening, the sky outside had turned violet, and the house emptied of words again. Mark had gone out, some bar, I guess. I stood at the kitchen counter, holding the cold mug he'd left behind. The smell was stale beer, not coffee. I rinsed it under running water, slow, deliberate. There was satisfaction in simple acts when you did them by choice. Then I sat again at the table, same place, same light. But the feeling was different. The silence now belonged to me. I made a list. Not a dramatic one, no revenge, no fantasy. Just facts. Contact Ms. Jasper, retired attorney, neighbor 3 streets down. We worked together once. She owes me a favor. Review the deed, confirm no liens or co-ownership. Check will copies, update if necessary. Secure important jewelry and documents in bank box. Plan exit timeline if things turn ugly. Each item a small step away from being someone's dependent. After writing it, I felt an unfamiliar thing, calm with edges. Like standing in shallow water just before it drops off.